Call to order the Solid Waste District Board meeting for January 8th. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business will be to elect officers for the year 2020. You should find in your not working. They're not working the best. Okay. By resolution 2002-4, we passed a sequence of order of how we do the chairmanship. This year's chairmanship falls to the city of LaPorte. Also, the resolution also outlines, and there is 5 members here, that if for some reason LaPorte can't serve as mayor or as chair, can be voted off for any other members. So at this point, if we have no objection, I'll entertain a motion to represent this representative from the city of LaPorte.
Make a motion to nominate Mayor Dermody.
Second.
Any other nominations? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, I'll turn it over to the chairman for his election of a vice chairman. And that can be anyone on the board.
Well, thank you, I believe. I thought I always went to the guy that didn't show up for the meeting, that he was going to be president down there. But are there any nominations for vice chairman?
Well, I nominate Commissioner Rosinski.
Pardon? Me? Oh, you? Okay, I'm sorry.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, minutes of the district board from December 11th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Number 6, claims, January 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Here's that docket for your signatures. I'll start down here. Thank you, sir.
Should I wait or?
No.
Okay. Financial reports through January 31st, 2020. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
This one,
This one looks like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always point out to our board, the important number to look at is what's here in the yellow, which is what our current running balance is. And our new cash balance at the end of December 31st is $2,061,851. We have sufficient funds to continue on through the first 6 months of this year until we get our tax distribution.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just real quickly, if I could, Commissioner T.S. had always asked for a breakdown of our services, so that's included in your packet there. And also, when we had our...
Clay, if I may, where's that at exactly? On the last page?
You should have that.
For the last page, I'm
Could we just have a second to look at it? Okay. Maybe ask questions if we have any.
Other questions? Absolutely.
What's this under Fund 317, other professionals? What is that for?
For December, trying to remember who that was. I can go pull the claim for December if you like. That's December's breakdown.
That's not what you're paying staff source out of.
Could have been staff source. I could go with the $600.
If you don't mind, Councilman or Board Member Przwolinski brings up a good point. If you don't mind from just going through all of, can you explain all of these? Because I'm new.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Like she goes and pulls the 317, the 331 county administration, the 45,000. That's for allowing us to have our user fee on the tax bill. Pay them through an interlocal agreement. 2% or a max of 45,000, whichever is the less of the two. And 45,000 appears to be the less when we collect our user fee.
You pay the county.
We pay the county to be on the tax bills. Of course, 335 is pretty self-explanatory. That's our hauling charges. That's what we pay for public services for our curbside contract on a monthly basis. Picking up all of our residential properties and all of our commercial properties and all of our public access sites
On your contract.
on our contract. And we do all of LaPorte County. And the next one that has a fee by it would be public compost site. And at our December meeting, the board had allowed me to transfer some funds into that public compost site to clean up our compost site down here, so we'd be all ready for the new year. We were able to accomplish that in the last couple weeks of the last year, so that was his fee.
To clean it up.
Finish grinding all the product out there and get put in the rows.
I'm going to ask a dumb question. Where is it?
Compost site?
Yes.
It's right down here on
Oh, this one. Okay.
the other side of the fairgrounds.
We put that refrigerator last week.
Still grinding it.
Well, she's still reviewing that. And I'm not sure, I believe she put it in your packet, in 2 statements from Horizon. When we did our audit, our 3-year audit this year, or I guess it was 2019, one of the comments they made was that we bring our transaction reports to the board for their approval to show that we are transferring it from our max account to our checking account in order to pay bills. That was part of the internal controls that was passed a few years ago. So that was one of the things that they had asked that we do, so we're starting to do that now, so you'll have that in your board packet every month. So you'll see that we're actually transferring the funds from I guess the same account to our checking account. Just a way to make it more transparent.
Can I go back? I'm sorry. The county administration, the 45,000, that is to the county, 2% for, that is put on, you said the tax bills?
That's what we pay the county to have our fee put on the tax bills. They collect
Okay.
our fee for us and then they give us the funds.
Gotcha.
So the 2% is to help do the billing on behalf of the solid waste, collect the money, and disperse the money to solid waste. So that's the service.
Yeah, and the way that interlocal reads, it's 2% or 45,000, whichever is the less of the two. And the county collects over around $3 million for us, so 45,000 is less than 2%.
I do have an answer to Mr. President, Councilman President's question. 317 was so total for both December's docket, December 11th docket and the final docket in December. Both sums were to Mr. BG's firm for professional services. That's the combined total for that for December.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have any other questions?
Any other questions regarding the financial report? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Comments from the public? Looks to be none. So we will continue moving to the director's report.
First item on our report is last year, that time Chairman President Linsky asked me to put together a timeline. Because we did get a citation. Our electronics vendor did get a citation from IDEM. So the chairman asked me to put together a timeline on how we got to the point where we would get a violation. And we should have 2 pages that starts with our letterhead.
Well, there it is.
And it basically walks you through how we got to the point where we're at now. The site that's in violation is cleaned up now. Unfortunately, the civil penalty still retains because it happened before the actual cleanup happened. The civil penalty is $8,750. It's supposed to be divided among the 3 persons listed on the violation, which would be solid waste district, because our electronics, get down, get around is our vendor, and the property owner, which is Westfield Real Estate Holdings. Been working with IDEM to see if we can, to remove the penalty, and they said we can't, even though the site's cleaned up, they're not gonna remove the penalty. They will give us a 20% reduction if we pay it within a year. So that brings that $8,700 down to about $7,000. And once the board commits to that, we'll have to sign a, what's it called?
An agreed order.
An agreed order. And at that point, then we have basically 30 to 90 days, somewhere in that timeline, to make sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed at the site out there. We're only actually in violation of the one semi that's sitting out there that he used at a collection for us, where we loaded all our electronics in it, and then we just set it on his property. Item was under the impression that that semi belonged to us. It does not belong to us. It belongs to the vendor, but the product in it belongs to us, so we're still being cited. Cleaning up of the property is actually get down, get around concern right now, and it is clean. They went out there and did a second inspection, and they agreed that everything's been removed. So wrapping up this first offense should be pretty quick. We should be able to get it done. But what he's done is just move the product from his one location to another location. So eventually they're going to go out there and cite that location. So talking with the attorney and with IDEM, we believe the best course of action is probably for us to go out there and make the cleanup, get it done properly. And then whatever costs that we've incurred in order to get the cleanup done, we'll go back after our vendor to try to get some resources paid back to us.
I have a couple of questions regarding this. In future, to prevent something from happening like this, are we putting any processes in place?
That's exactly the same question that Mr. Presley asked, and we do have those processes, and I apologize, I put it in here, I just don't know how this contract slipped through the cracks for 2 years not getting a contract. Every other contract always comes to this board for approval, and it first goes to the attorney for his review and then to the board. We'll have, the new contracts right here today that we're going to ask the board to approve, and that covers all of us. We have, and if you'll see on the timeline, we've had several indications where we've probably seen some trouble starting out there, because we file our registration every year. And when we file ours, we always click on the drop-down menu to see if who we're taking our stuff to has been certified and registered also. We noticed that he didn't register, so right away we started contacting him saying, hey, you need to register. We're sending you our product, you need to get registered. Of course, he promised that he would. We have his scale inspected every year, so we're out there several times during the year. We had a complaint at the fair that something was going on out there. Sasha went out and checked it out and said, yeah, there's some problems out there. So we got on him right away at that time. And all he did was just move it from one location to another. But there are safeguards in place, it's just that this one got by me, and it's totally on me. And I can't explain why, because Don asked me, and I went back and looked and thought and gave him a couple ideas that I thought was a problem, and I went back and checked out what I thought it was, and that wasn't it. It just fell through the crack.
So if I may ask, Mr. Turner, what are the safeguards so something like this doesn't occur again? Because we're being penalized, we're going to have to pay a penalty, and if it wouldn't have fell through the cracks, we wouldn't be sitting here today where we're at, dealing with this issue.
Well, we'd probably still be sitting here today dealing with this issue. It's just that we'd have a better action and recourse to go after him. We'd have a contract with a liability clause in it that says, if you're liable, we're going to get you.
Well, my point is how do we know, or how are we going to make sure on an annual basis all contracts are up to date, so that we don't have a contractor, by chance, if you forget, or if somebody forgets, that we don't have a contractor running around out here doing work that doesn't have a contract? I mean, is there is there going to be a standard operating procedure that on an annual basis, on a certain date, you have to review this or have the attorney review it and make sure that every contract that the district has and every contractor that's here has a contract and it's up to date.
Like
I think that should be part of your
and
corrective
a
action.
timeline where we can check off the list to make sure everything is current.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I guess we don't have a written timeline, but we have like in our calendar, like I know when my 5-year Republic Services contract's up.
Okay.
And I have that dated 90 days out, because that's when we need to start negotiations. He said, we have those built into our contract. This one just didn't get in.
Okay.
But you're suggesting in writing,
Yeah, that they have a standard operating procedure, and, you know, where I worked at, they actually had it built in their computer system that when things were coming up for due dates, that it came up on the computer, and you're alarmed of it. Everybody's alarmed of it in the office, or whoever needed to be alarmed. It came up on their computer that this contract has to be reviewed by such and such date. That way it doesn't fall through the cracks.
I'm all for that. And we just
I
don't
think
have
that's-
very many contracts here, and sometimes that's why.
I think even whatever we have, if we can have a checklist, and frankly, at the last meeting of the year, maybe a standard agenda item, contract inspection and renewals, just an item that way to remind you that you went through it and they're all current. Or if it's something coming up in the next 3 months, 6 months, then we start working on it, something like that. Just to help us stay on top of it.
Sure, that keeps me from being embarrassed at these meetings trying to explain why I didn't have one.
No.
is that feasible to have something in writing for the board at the next meeting, if that's,
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
so, do we need to make a motion on that, or no, just? One question I have is, why is it's the vendor's issue that caused this, correct?
Yes.
Why are we splitting 3 ways versus him just being responsible for it?
Well, actually, it's joint and several liability, which means all 3 are obligated to all of it. So what's likely is going to happen, we pay this fine, and we'll get our numbers from what we had to pay for cleanup, but then we'll go after the other 2 for reimbursement.
Okay.
But they won't split it into thirds.
Okay.
They want their entire fee paid. That, if the 3 of us can get together and decide that we'll do it, they'll take it that way, but they're not going to just take our check and write us off. They want to turn all their money.
IDM wants all that.
Yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Turner, if I could just, a couple more suggestions or comments on this issue. So with, you were saying you were notified at the fair that the site was becoming unsightly or whatever was going on out there, and then you went out and checked it out. Do you have a process where somebody goes out to this site on a weekly basis, monthly basis, to inspect it, to make sure that everything is in compliance with IDEM?
No, we do not.
So you don't have a process in place to make sure that
We try to
Good.
do.
Well, could I make the recommendation that for the next meeting, that you have a procedure on inspecting the electronics recycling site and present it to the board for our approval, if we accept it?
Sure. I take direction from you folks.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want to do. And
Well, that's what I'd like to see, is some kind of concrete in writing procedure that you're gonna have. So every 2 weeks, somebody goes out and inspects this guy, instead of waiting for the county fair to have somebody tell us that the site is out of compliance.
Not a problem. The only
Okay.
thing, and IDEM can't explain it to me. I asked them, why weren't we notified sooner? You went out there July 24th. I didn't get notice of violation until December 5th. What happened in between? Why wasn't I notified?
I know, to me, that's water under the bridge now. That's water under the bridge. Moving forward, we gotta have some kind of process where we don't get caught up in this again. That's my point.
So a standard operating procedure for inspection, as well as then a report to say, hey,
Or
a timeline
contract
and
review.
contract review.
Yeah, on an annual basis.
Well, it's water under the bridge, but didn't they maybe say why they didn't notify you? Because they certainly should have if they seen a violation.
No, I called two people from IDEM. I called their local gal out of Maryville, kind of runs this northwest area. She was out for the inspection. She didn't even call. I believe they were working with the vendor because it's his problem, not so much our problem.
Okay, so they probably notified him.
And he just ignored
That
it.
probably explains it. Yeah, certainly they weren't doing their job if they didn't notify somebody that, otherwise why bother inspecting it?
Right.
And then what happens if, because I think Councilman Przybylski saying, hey, we won't wait on IDEM, we'll be proactive and be ahead of the game. If they're not doing their job, the vendor, what is our recourse?
Well, the new contract has, a section in there that shows that we can tell them that there's a complaint. If they don't correct it, then we have the action where you either go against their bond or their insurance, or we can look for a new vendor.
And there's a provision where we can terminate the contract on notice.
I do need, though, from the board to give me permission to pay the fine, have the chairman enter into the agreed order, and then have us clean up the place so we know that it's done correctly.
I make a motion to do that.
Second.
Can the motion, do we need to also include to go after the vendor as well, or?
I suggest we wait on that until we have the numbers from the new vendor and what it's going to cost us to dispose of that stuff.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Next item is our
Clay, if I may, and just for general information, where all this material is now being stockpiled, it's down right across the street from
Coulter's pump.
Coulter's pumpkin patch here, just north of that concrete mixing
On 421?
plant. Pardon?
On 421?
Yeah, on 421. Yeah, there's a garage there, and behind that garage, there's a field of electronic devices sitting there. Approximately 36 tons, you were saying?
Well, we know it's more than 23 because that's all they're allowed to
Yeah,
have.
that's the state limit, it's 23 tons, and they're well over that limit. Yeah, so. Okay, thank you.
The next item then is our 2020 special collection dates. We've set our HHW calendar for 2020. We start in May, we wrap up in October. Our two big collections will be May and September. We still will have a collection in Wanachop because the numbers seem to be picking up down there, so we're going to try it again. See if we almost doubled it from 18 to 19, so we hope that we can pick it up a little bit more from 19 to 20. Anytime any of you folks want to come out and see us do these or participate in them, you're more than welcome to come on out and visit with us. The next item is our user fee update. It looks as though we're going to try to go another year, and I gave you a little bit of a breakdown on our fees. As you can see, from 2007 to 2013, our fee was $3.50 a month per residential unit. And in 14 and 15, we raised it to $5.50, and we started accumulating too much of a balance there. So we reduced it back down in 2016 to $4 for each residential unit. If you have 4 or more, reduct it to $3. But from 16 through 19, it's been the same, and we're going to try to get through 2020 before we review our numbers again. And similar to what Doc Cora was suggesting earlier, we have to do this on a yearly basis by resolution. In 2012, the board passed a resolution that at our December or January meeting, we have to review our fees so we can get them on the tax basis, on the tax roll at a reasonable time. But I would make a recommendation to the board that we leave the fees at the current 2019 level.
Do we need a resolution to?
Don't need a resolution, but if you're in favor of it, you just move on.
Okay.
Next, I just wanted to redo the 2020 meeting dates. Councilman Mullenhour brought to our attention that we had put the wrong date in January, so we corrected that. This is just a new calendar for you folks to put into your calendars. We meet 5 times in 2020. And as always, we're basically required to meet at least twice with the Joint Citizens Advisory Council. So we can meet anywhere from 12 times a year to 2 times a year, whatever the board decides, but we thought meeting quarterly would give everybody a chance to get updated on what we're doing here at Summit. Basically, this is just an update on that one date that we had misprinted.
What is the Citizens Advisory Committee?
There was a committee formed when they created the districts to help guide the districts on what their 20-year plans are going to be. Since then, we've had, a couple 20-year plans already. They just meet quarterly also. They kind of, if we have a project or if you have a project that we need some advice on, we send it to the Citizens Advisory Council to review. Kind of give us some pointers. They look at our budget before we send it to the board.
Okay.
Question on that advisory, Citizen Advisory Committee, I know you had an opening. Did you get that filled?
We did not. We were waiting. The Citizen Advisory Committee had their first meeting yesterday. We put it out to them to see if they had anybody that they wanted to recommend to their board. They had asked that we wait till their next meeting, which is right before our next meeting. So we're going to advertise, they're going to look around, and we're going to try to bring you a new member by our next board meeting. Any other questions on the meeting dates? And then, like I just mentioned about the new CAC member, they're going to look for a member, we're going to look for a member, advertise it, and we'll bring a name or names back to you. We did check our files. There was no current names in our files. The most recent one was 2014, so we didn't even bother contacting them. We just thought we'd start again. And the last thing I have under director's report, we do have an employee that's retiring, Nancy Gibson McVeigh. She's been with us for 23 years.
Wow.
Decided that it's time for her to enjoy and reap the benefits of her career.
Is she working today?
She's not working today, no. She's actually burning up some vacation days, comp hours, and sick days. Her last day of work will be actually February 21st, but she's going to be probably missing most of the month of January.
Thank you to her for her service.
That's what I was asking. If she was here, probably we would have stopped by at her desk and did that.
We're going to have a little going away luncheon for her, so we'll make sure you get an invitation to that. Get a chance to come out if it works into your schedule to say goodbye to her. And she's staying in town. She's not looking away or anything. She says we'd be glad to come back and work with us and help us on anything we need to.
Okay.
And just real quickly along that lines, Robin Havens is our new hire to take. We did kind of a switch in the office. Lisa took Nancy's position as recycling coordinator, and then Chris took Lisa's position as her office manager. Robin. Chris is her husband. Having the family, anyways.
Well, I heard good things about Rhonda at the city police department, so
Thank you.
we're going to have to maybe fight for her back, So did I miss compost site update?
No, I jumped over that. And I guess we kind of went over that when we did the claims. The board gave me permission to hire a contractor to come in and get that cleaned up. Brought it in, cleaned it up. We're waiting for the ground to get a little bit more hard out there. It's kind of soft and it's kind of crappy out there. He's going to come back and scrape it up a little bit more. It's already paid for, it's all done. He's just going to come back and clean it up a little bit, get the windrows, and then he said he would, between when he left and what we've accumulated, which won't be very much because of the weather, he'll grind that up for no cost to us. I don't know if you go by our site, you'll see the 2 grinders out there. Both of those aren't ours. One of those is his that he's left there just so he can come back and finish it up. Sorry about that.
Any other questions off the director's report?
No.
New business, electronics contract.
As we've been discussing, we had some problem with the old vendor, so we reached out, and every year, or I should say every 2 years, this is a 2-year contract. LaPorte and LaPorte, we go out together. We use our cumulative numbers to get a better quote. 2 years ago, Greenwave actually received our contract. We chose not to go with them because the way they needed to collect our electronics was too manpower intensive for us. So what we thought we were gonna save, we end up gonna cost us now because I went with a bad choice. So we're gonna go with the one that the other 2 districts awarded the contract to this past September, October. They've agreed to accept whatever the bid was that we took in Lake and Porter County, and it's built into here, the price schedule and everything. So we've been using them to do our current cleanup. And if you notice, we have a semi sitting out here. What they do is they drop a semi and they drop the pallets and skids, and then we have to physically load it from our collection boxes into the semi, and then they'll come back, drop another semi, and take that semi. Our goal is we're gonna move our collection box from here down to our compost site, because the manpower is actually down at the compost site. We believe at that time we won't have to hire any more staff source people to come in and help us do it. We'll use our people down there. It's just a matter of timing to get the box moved from here down there. We still have a concern in Michigan City. The process is still the same, you know, it has to be handled into a semi to get over here. So we're still working on the logistics of Michigan City. So at that point, we're still gonna have a little manpower issue. Probably have to rent like a U-Haul or load their product up, bring it over to our facility here. My recommendation, and it'll probably be at our next board meeting, is that we actually close the Michigan City site and just strictly have the one location here in LaPorte, and have everybody in LaPorte County bring it here. Have to reach out to the new mayor and see what his thoughts are on that. I don't want to blindside him just by closing it, but it's just, it gets so much use. These things we pick up in Michigan City about every 2 weeks. We pick up here in LaPorte every week. It just gets that much.
Is that site the one at Marquette Mall?
No, that's off of Hitchcock Street.
Yeah. It's by the big water tower on Hitchcock Street.
Gotcha.
All I can say, my first reaction to hear that, I don't think it'll work. I think there'll be a lot of electronic devices laying all over the city, because I don't know how many people are going to come and bring their old TVs and stereos or what have you all the way to LaPorte. Just like I see a lot of other, rubbish that's around the city. People aren't going to do it properly, so I think we'll just get into a big mess and have to start all over again and educate people. I mean, I don't know how much it costs to do what you're doing now, but to have people come out here, put a cost savings together for our next meeting, and we can take a look at it and see what it's going to save you.
And it's one of those that's hard to get you a projection. I can project it, because right now we just don't have like a box truck to haul this stuff here. We have to take it from the container that it's in, load it into a box truck, bring it here, and then load it into our semi.
Well, just then get a cost breakdown of what all this, the U-Haul or trailer or renting a box truck is going to cost you to bring it over here once a month.
I agree with Don. I could just see the people, well, maybe not so much at their own home, but they're going to go to that Hitchcock facility and see nothing there, but they'll dump it. So.
They'll dump it.
They're used to it.
And,
I would also feel that, driving all the way from there to here it's an inconvenience for people, so if there's anywhere we can have another site there, it would be helpful.
And Clay, and here's a prime example. We have the recycle box at Ace Hardware in Michigan City. Well, the electronic disposal site is over on Hitchcock, which is only maybe a mile away. But people aren't going to travel a mile away. They dump it right there at that box by Ace Hardware and expect us to dispose of it from there.
they won't travel 12 miles.
Exactly, they're not going to. I guarantee you, it's going to wind up somewhere between Michigan City and the disposal site. Somewhere.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I agree with
That's
you.
my take.
Yeah.
The only thing is that we've got folks coming from like La Crosse to here to drop theirs, from Roland Curry here to drop theirs, Springville, they have to travel.
There are the collections that they can take advantage of.
They have the 2 big collections they could bring it to. My goal is, and I don't know what Michigan City would think about it, but Michigan City offers a lot of services to the residents. Maybe if they were to go around and actually collect it curbside and then bring it to us, like they do with tires and other things, appliances. I think you folks collect curbside in Michigan City.
My suggestion is before we change anything, maybe let's sit down and have a conversation with the mayor and the new
absolutely.
administration,
That's
and
what I
then see
said.
what would work best and before we make any changes.
And how often are you hauling? Because in reverse, I'd probably be saying the same thing. If it was LaPorte being removed and just Michigan City, I'd probably say the same thing. How often are you bringing a trailer over from Michigan City here right now?
Well, this is all new to us.
Okay.
What we're doing now is we're gonna take the semi-truck and set it at our compost site. So what we'll do then is go to Michigan City with a rented box truck, load that container up, and it's about every 2 weeks that container gets full over there. So about every 2 weeks, we have to rent the box truck, hire staff source to meet us there, load it up, bring it over to LaPorte, and put it in the semi here.
Would they put it in semi over there or no?
That would, we still have to get it from the container into the semi, because it,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
at
it's
least
higher
you wouldn't
up.
have to get a truck and,
Transport it.
yeah.
Well, and also, and I don't know if this makes sense, LaPorte Transit, if you've used them, I mean, they drop trailers very inexpensive, and then when it's filled, they'll come pick it up and usually haul it, and they have trailers all over. I don't know if you can use that type of...
We could. Our only other problem is that, we don't have a forklift at the Michigan City site, so that'd have to be another rental thing. We have to get a forklift there to get it from the ground up into the back of the semi, where you'd be handing everything twice, But like I said, I wasn't going to make any changes until at least our April meeting. I wanted to see how things are going, get some cost estimates for you folks.
And talk to the mayor and tell them what your plans are.
And one other suggestion, you probably know already, you better have a sign here because they'll be dumping it right here anyway.
Well, and it's kind of funny you say that, because we used to have our site at the county highway before we were here, and the county highway will still come in on a Monday morning, there'll be a TV or two sitting outside their gate. And
Yep, I've
there's
seen
no
that.
signage, there's no
I've seen
containers,
that a
been
few
here for
times.
5 years. Come on.
Just about 2 weeks ago, there was a big TV there.
Yeah, so that's all, and I agree with Don, we'll be going backwards, but, we're gonna try, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, get all the information put together and then we'll go from there.
Would any of the board members like to see a contract copy for this electronics contract? Are we good?
Contract, what's that?
Mr. BG's looked at it, that's good enough for me.
By the 20th.
You've looked at it?
Okay.
I make a motion to adopt or accept this contract.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. HHW contract.
That stands for Household Hazardous Waste. This is just a renewal of a contract that we've had with Tredevi probably for the last 8-10 years. They do our special collections. Mr. Chairman, you sign that, please. It's, once again, we do it with Lake and Porter counties. Went out for bid. We accepted the different proposals. I believe there was only 2 vendors that applied bids. Once again, Tredevi was the most economical. So I'd like to ask the board if they would approve the HHW contract with Tredevi and ask the chairman to sign accordingly.
Any change compared to the previous contract? Anything significant? Okay.
Then we've reviewed the contract and find it acceptable.
Make a motion to accept.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Motion and a second. We are adjourned. Thank
You
you.
did a fine job.